पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उत्कल जलधि तिरंगा सब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाए जय जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय है भारत भाग्य विधाता जय है जय है जय है जय 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 जय। Please. May I request Dr. Shashi Tharoor to please come and deliver the welcome address.
Your Excellency, the Hon'ble President of India, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, friends and participants in the Asian Forum on Global Governance. It really is a matter of great satisfaction for me to be able to introduce to all of you the President of India, His Excellency Pranab Mukherjee. He is one of India's most distinguished statesmen with a long career in politics and governance. We are here to study global governance, but I think there is no individual who better epitomizes Indian governance than Pranab Mukherjee. He is the only man in the history of democratic India to have served as Defense Minister, External Affairs or Foreign Minister, and Finance Minister, as well as the head of the Planning Commission to boot. An extraordinary collection of responsibilities, in addition to his many other responsibilities of a parliamentary and political nature, heading at different times both the upper house and the lower house as leader of those two houses during majorities of the Congress party in those two houses. He's had his entry into politics going back to the 1960s, so you are looking at an embodiment of Indian contemporary political history. Equally, he is famously a walking encyclopedia. There is almost nothing. He reads capaciously and copiously, and there is nothing about Indian politics that he cannot remember in exquisite detail. So I've always found it immensely rewarding to talk with the President because his insights, as well as the wealth of information, mean that you can really put aside Google. There's nothing that you need to look up because he knows it all. It really has been a great privilege for us that he has agreed to address this forum. I have to confess, we have not dared to ask the President in previous years. The success and popularity of this forum emboldened us to approach his office, and he most graciously consented to address you all. Mr. President, this is an Indo-German collaboration. Theo Sommer, whom you met as you came in, founded the Bucerius School of Global Governance in 2001, and it has generated a number of young leaders, including some that you know personally, like Rahul Gandhi and Sachin Pilot, are products of the Bucerius School of Global Governance in Hamburg. With Theo's active encouragement, we established the Indian equivalent with the cooperation of ORF, the Asian Forum on Global Governance, starting in 2011. This being the 6th year, we have invited graduates of all the previous forums in previous years to attend a brief reunion gathering. So today you are addressing not only this year's batch of the Asian Forum, but also many previous alumni of the Bucerius Forum, the Asian Forum, here on this occasion today. So I just want to tell you, you have a large, diverse audience. We've calculated that some 50 countries are represented in the room today. And these are people from a diverse set of professional backgrounds and interests, but also with considerable levels of accomplishment. And we believe you will find them a very worthy audience. Thank you for gracing us with your presence.
Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Member of Parliament and Chairman of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs, Shri Sanjay Joshi, Director, Observer Research Foundation, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, I am indeed happy to have this opportunity of meeting you, and I sincerely thank Mr. Tharoor and his colleagues for inviting me to participate in this program where you are debating and discussing on the form, structure, nature, and objective of the global governance. Concept of global governance is not new, but this concept has manifested itself in many forms, including having attempted to build up world organizations to govern certain fundamental principles of the governance, money, finance, maintaining social order, restoring peace. The League of Nations experiments immediately after the First World War did not achieve much success. I am not going into the structural inadequacies or lack of awareness about the global governance and the concept and implementation of that concept in that context. Historians, analysts, researchers have made volumes of works on why it did not succeed. And in one way, I always welcome the second half of the last century, because perhaps that was the longest period when the world did not see any major conflicts amongst the multiple nations or across the oceans. Though the first half, beginning of the last century, was not so promising, within 45 years, that is in the first half of that century, world witnessed 2 world wars. And between, literally it can be said, signing the Versailles Treaty and the beginning of the Second World War, hardly there was any time even to dry the ink in the treaty. But I am not concerned with that part right now. What I am talking of, thereafter another attempt to have a more cogent, powerful organization, United Nations, where India has the opportunity of participating since its beginning, though we attained our political soft and independence after 2 years of the establishment of United Nations. But we believed the Charter seriously. And in one of the obituary references of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, after he died in 1964, it was perhaps very correctly pointed out that among the living statesmen, the person who believed so seriously in the Charter of United Nations and its peacekeeping role, that throughout his long tenure of Prime Ministership of India, in his own way he tried to strengthen that process of this world organization. But nonetheless, with the passage of time, however strong and powerful an organization may be, it requires to be reformed. To be reformed to reflect the ground realities. Surely, the administrative structures or the financial administrative structures of these world organizations, neither the United Nations nor the Bretton Woods institutions, nor even the final leg of the tripod of Bretton Woods institutions, World Trade Organization, have not come up to the expectation of the people. What they wanted to see, to face the challenges of this century and the other related problems, how the world organizations, with the objective of the world governance, could be achieved. World governance, almost every state today admits that just not merely maintaining peace in the borders or to prevent nations from engaging themselves into armed conflicts. The challenges are manifold. Poverty, hunger, disease, backwardness. All these are staring at us. And the problems which have been created by ourselves substantially, with the rapid degradation of environment and cruel exploitation of Mother Earth's resources, have caused a situation where the world is to think seriously how to implement not only the developmental goals, but sustainable developmental goals, which can be sustained over a period of time. In the last 13 months, we have seen a large number of world members of the world community have signed two important agreements. One for sustained developmental goal and another for the Paris Conference of climate changes. India has already signed it. India has already undertaken, long before the Paris Conference of 2015, we set our goals for sustainable development and preventing environmental degradation, taking a tremendous risk. Risk in the sense because of our energy deficiency, despite commendable economic development, particularly over the last 1.5 decades, where Indian economy registered a GDP growth of more than 7.5%, and couple of years having more than 8.5%. But despite that, the hard fact remains that right now when I am speaking before you, out of 1.28 billion people of India, 400 million people have no access to electricity, any form of electricity. But still we thought for the larger objective we must subscribe to the main objectives of the Paris Conference, and we signed the agreement. Now what I am talking of, that if we agree that basic objective of the global governance would be to provide succor to the needed, it was thought, and as a participant in the WTO discussions based on the Dunkel draft in 1994 at Marrakesh, we expressed our hope that thereafter equitable development would be possible. But a study made just after 5 years of that, it showed 40 least developed countries, their international debt, their real GDP growth, and their income generation, instead of being increased, have come down substantially. Therefore, it is not automatic that with the instrumental changes of the system, benefit will reach to the people. Sometimes the intervention of the states would be needed. Surely I am not prescribing the controlled or commanded economy. But in certain cases, to achieve the objective of the social realities, keeping in view the social realities, to achieve the goals, perhaps state intervention is needed if we want to truly provide succor and relief to those underprivileged. Therefore, the reforms of the world governance structures is absolutely needed. It has taken too much time. On the occasion of the 50th year of its establishment, open-ended committee was established in United Nations. And after that, 2 decades have passed. I am happy that at least a negotiated draft is now available, and I do not know what would be the final outcome. But I believe that if United Nations to be more effective and arms peacekeeping, preventing armed conflict does not necessarily mean the declared wars. There is an undeclared war by the terrorists, undeclared war by the pirates. Some of the most crucial sea lanes are not safe. We are to deploy, as the then defense minister and subsequently foreign minister, I had to take the decisions. terrorism has assumed a proportion which is difficult for individual nation to manage. We are suffering for more than 2.5 decades. But in the presence of our distinguished friends coming from outside, I am not going to raise any domestic issue. But the terrorism, no country is safe because it has no idealism. I believe, and I believe firmly, that terrorism has only one ideology, that is wanton destructions and destruction of human values, humanity itself, except that it has nothing, no other objective. We may go on having debate in the international community about the definition of it, whether right to self-determination should also be brought within the broad parameter and definition. I am not going, but I do feel seriously that if we want to control terrorism and make this world our future citizens, the generation to come, if we want to leave a safer world for them, it is high time for us, international community, will take courage in its hands, overcome the baggage, and deal with this menace with confidence and courage. Then only it can be controlled. Ladies and gentlemen, I am afraid I took little longer time than I intended to have. But I do feel, as per my constitutional position, I have not the decision maker today. In Indian Constitution, President is ceremonial. President acts on the advice of his Prime Minister. Therefore, what I spoke of from my heart, that's why I did not take the help of the prepared text. I will hand it over to Shri for his use. I thought that whatever I feel I should share with this distinguished audience, and they may, if it found worthwhile, to refer and reflect in their future deliberations. But I am happy that these initiatives are being taken, and I congratulate Shri and his colleagues who are having this regularly, particularly Asian chapter, that they are bringing thinking, willing, and well-meaning persons together to exchange their views, to take the issues, and thereafter to build up the world opinion. I wish you Godspeed. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Excellency, President of India, Shri Pranab Mukherjee, distinguished participants, colleagues, friends, how does one even thank the President after a speech like this? Spoken straight from the heart, and going beyond the mere formalities of delivering a closing address, in his very, very typical style, laying down in very succinct manner, broadening the whole definition of security, extending the frontiers of security into the larger problems which confront humanity as a whole, whether it is sustainable development, terrorism, climate change, and for things for which global governance really needs to come together. So with your vast scholarship and combined with that experience, which is an extremely rare combination, you have the ability to drill down to the basics, to reach the pith of the arguments, and communicate in such a straightforward manner to all these young leaders. So we're extremely grateful, all of us here, for that address you gave us. It was with trepidation that we approached your office for the honor of having you here in front of these young leaders. I'm grateful on behalf of all of the participants here that you accepted our invitation so graciously. And after this, this is, I would say, the apogee. We've done this for 6 consecutive years, the AFGG. And this is the kind of apogee we've reached with your arrival here. The challenge before us, after what you've said, becomes even larger. But this is a continuing forum. And, sir, I would like to assure you on behalf of all the participants here that we shall carry this forward and this shall continue. Thank you so much, sir.
Can we all rise for the national anthem, please?